Hello, I'm Mark Davis,
And I'm Stella Coyle.
and we're jointly responsible for the dissertation and ISP modules next year.
So, Mark, I'm thinking about doing a dissertation next year. What sort of student should I be?
I think that you need to be the sort of student that's got a question that you really want to find the answer to. Might be a question that has been triggered by something you've done in one of your modules, one of your taught modules. It might be something that maybe it was the thing that caused you to want to do law in the first place, and you've just worked out you're never going to have a chance to do it in one of the modules or electives.
Yeah.
Something you want to find the answer to. Yes, I mean, clearly you're going to have to do independent research. Clearly you're going to have to take supervision and be able to respond to constructive criticism. You're going to have to be able to manage your time. But the main thing is to have that question, to have something you want to find the answer to.
Okay. So it's good for someone like me who doesn't like doing exams then, is that right?
Not quite. I think it's really important that if you choose a research study project, like a dissertation, whole year, 10,000 words, ISP, whole semester, 5,000 words, it's really important that you choose something that you're going to be able to stick with.
Yeah.
It's got to really drive you, because the other modules that you're doing, they'll be sort of shouting, or people will be saying, you've got to do this and you've got to do that, and they're easier because you're being pushed in the direction to do it. You're going to have to, you've got to have the interest to drive your time management
And to be
through.
independent
And
with
at
it.
the end of the day, just because you don't like exams, well, you may, it's not going to solve anything. I
Not
don't
good
think.
enough, no. Okay. So if I was thinking about choosing a dissertation or an ISP, what's the main, apart from the word count, what's the main difference between them?
Well, let me just say that one of the reasons we offer the ISP is that it means that you can do another taught elective. So you'll have 3 taught subjects in your final year, and for some people that's really important because you want that variety, or that's the only way of getting the subjects that you want to be able to demonstrate to a future employer, or they really interest you. So for what it might be a purely practical decision. In terms of the sort of academic difference, 10,000 words, it needs to be on a fairly focused question, but you've got a lot of scope there to be analysing that question. 5,000 words, much closer to the sort of thing you might be asked to do as a pupil, as a trainee solicitor,
Right.
where a senior partner says, this new piece of law has come out, could you
Yeah.
just go away and do a summary for us that we can distribute around the
Okay,
office,
so
or something like
looking
that.
at a new case or a piece of legislation,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, generally speaking, start from an ISP with here's a new piece of legislation, here's a key case,
Yeah.
so writing a commentary, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Whereas a dissertation, you've got more scope, so you can start looking at concepts or issues, or something a bit broader, but not too broad,
Not
because
too
that's I mean, one of the
broad.
things we have
Yeah.
to do in working with people as they're preparing dissertations often is to say, no, be more specific, because
Right.
10,000 words sounds like a lot,
It does.
but actually, once you start
It's
writing
not
it,
really.
no.
Okay. So you've talked about it being an independent research, a piece of research work, but what sort of support do I get while I'm doing it, if any?
Well, the main thing is that you will find, with our help and support, but you're going to be responsible for finding them, a supervisor who's a member of the academic staff in the school, who has some expertise or knowledge or experience of the area that you're writing your dissertation in.
Okay.
And their role is, as the title suggests, to supervise you. So they are there to support, to be a critical friend, to point you in the right direction, for you to bounce ideas off. With the dissertation, the double module, early in semester 1, you present a formal proposal, so they're there to help you hone that down. You've probably never prepared a proposal before, so they're there to help and support with that.
Okay.
Later on, they're probably going to be looking at a draft chapter. I think the tip actually is if someone is looking at a draft chapter, give them your worst chapter, not your best chapter, and never give them the introduction, because that's nothing like anything else you write. But
that's good
you know,
advice.
essentially,
Yeah.
they're not doing the work,
Yeah.
but they are there to say, well, have you thought about this, or that might be a useful avenue to go down,
Okay.
or so
Yeah.
things like that.
Okay, thank you. So apart from the independence of it and finding a supervisor and being focused, what are the other challenges that I might face?
Time management.
Yeah, yeah.
Lots of people think, oh, we've got plenty of time,
Mm.
and then suddenly the due date is getting closer and closer and closer. And strange enough, that time management isn't just about saying, well, I've got to spend time on reading, I've got to spend time on writing. Actually, what people don't take account of is you need to spend time thinking about it.
Yeah, of course.
And that's one of the reasons why we ask students to come up with their topics before the summer vacation, before the start of their third year,
Right.
because it means you've had time over the summer to think. You might have done a little bit of reading. We're not expecting lots of work,
Yeah.
but you're doing some of that initial processing so that you don't get halfway through and then think, oh, actually what I really meant to do was,
Yeah.
because it's too late.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. Okay, so that does sound like a challenge, but it sounds like a doable one. So if I have to have some things in place by the end of July,
Yep.
before we go on holiday, do I have to have all the rest of it worked out by the start of year 3?
Well, as specific a topic as you can in July, and then it's going to depend a little bit on whether you're doing the ISP or the dissertation.
Okay.
With the ISPs, it may be that you're not doing it until semester 2,
Oh, that's
in which
true.
case you've got a bit of
Yeah.
space to continue thinking. But it's really useful to have it sorted before you start the year, because if you think, oh, I'll get it sorted over Christmas or something like that, well, you'll be spending, you've got assessments and everything else, it
Yeah.
won't happen.
Yeah.
So get it in place, even if it's ISP semester 2.
Okay.
The dissertation, there is a formal proposal stage, which is worth 10% to the marks.
Okay.
That's usually about week 4 or 5, and that's the point at which you need to be sure what your question is, not what your title is, but what's the question that you're going to examine, and how are you going to go about researching it.
So what's my research question?
What's your
going to
research
be?
question? And that's
Yeah.
much more important than the title. We
Yeah,
can get obsessed
yeah.
by titles.
Yeah.
Actually, you can change your title within reason up to the last minute.
Yeah.
What matters is, have you got a question? Do you know roughly where you're going? Or do you know fairly precisely where you're going? With the ISPs, we don't have a formal process like that, partly because of the pressure of fitting it in
Yeah.
to a single semester. So with the ISP, you need to be seeing your supervisor very early on in the semester and coming up with the equivalent of that. So having agreed between yourselves what's a sensible question and how you're going to go about it.
Okay. Okay. So I think I'm feeling persuaded. I think I'm sold almost.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad we sold you, because you and I are supposed to be looking after the people as coordinators. So we might be supervising people in our
Yes.
topics. We might not, but our role is to try and make sure that everything else goes smoothly.
Goes smoothly. So what do we do now? What's the next stage?
I think the next thing is look out for an announcement for a session called something like, so you think you might want to do an ISP, or so
Yeah.
you think you might want to do a dissertation. Get to it, or get to see the recorded content from it, and then watch out for an invite to start making or consulting colleagues and putting proposals together.
And finding a supervisor.
Finding a supervisor.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, if you've got something that interests you, be talking to the people who teach around that area,
Yes.
sounding them out, because that way they know you're keen.
Yeah.
And if you can sell your idea to them, then that idea is worth pursuing, because people won't supervise projects that they don't think are viable or worth supervising.
Lovely. Thank you, Mark.
Pleasure. I look
Thank
forward to working on these with you.
Thank you.